Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Late to the Gamer, and it's time to take on Final Fantasy's newest expansion. So join me as we take my character, Vehement Morningwood, balls deep into Dawntrail.
What did you just say?
You heard me. Oh, well, look at that launch queue. Since we're going to be here for a while, let me go over the disclaimers. I started playing Final Fantasy XIV during the last free trial and got hooked. So I grinded my character in preparation for Dawntrail. Today, I'll be explaining the first half of Dawntrail, and despite me making light of some characters and scenarios, I do enjoy the DLC. So don't get all sensitive if I mess up a name or two, intentionally or not. And without further ado, Dawntrail Part 1. So we continue our story in Old Sharlayan, where we met the energetic Wuk Lamat, who retained Alphino, Alizé, Tural, and myself to assist her attempt to become the new leader of her land of Tural. Tural has opted to join us because she realized her missing grandfather has a connection to Wuk's father, the current leader of the continent. So we embark, and naturally, in a world with pearl-sized cell phones, spaceships, and a breathable environment on the moon, we'll travel by boat. Now, Tural is very different from Eorzea. Decades ago, the Dawnservant traveled the entire continent and united all the different races under one flag. Honestly, I wonder how much time I could have saved if I didn't have to manually recruit and unite all the countries in Eorzea to fight the Ascians, but I digress. Anyway, we head over to the throne room to finally meet the Dawnservant, only to catch him sparring with Estinian. After the fight, the Dawnservant's head of resolve explains that he's getting too old for this and he's only a couple of weeks away from retirement. The head of reason sleeps most of the day, trying to maintain its strength, so he wants his children to compete in a trial to determine the next ruler. The competing parties, his children, are Zarul Ja, Kona, accompanied by fan creator Nurianje, Wuk Lamat, and the chosen of the Mamuk race, Bakul Jaja. Wuk warned that Bakul Jaja and Zarul Ja are the greatest threats. Bakul because he's a Weasley idiot, and Zarul Ja because he's a warmonger. Their right of succession will be completing the 7 labors their father undertook to unite Tural and locating the lost city of gold. Each participant will carry 7 tablets recounting the Dawnservant's trials and use them as clues. They will have to track down each area's elector and complete the requested labor. If the labor is completed, they will get one of the keystones needed to open the City of Gold. So the party heads out to the village of the Pelu Pelu, a tribe that specializes in trade. After some asking around, they locate the elector and are tasked with retrieving an alpaca. On the flip side, Zarul Ja walks into the territory and stares at someone so intensely they immediately point him to the elector. Lamat's attempt to tame a wild alpaca doesn't go well at all, and a girl named Mambu suggests that she gets a taming saddle from a peddler. Upon finding out who Lamat is, the peddler asks for a steep price for the mount, as he would prefer Zarul Ja to be the next Dawnservant. Without money, the party begins to intimately learn about the Pelu Pelu as they begin a chain of bartering to acquire the money they need. With the mount in hand, Lamat tames the wild alpaca and retrieves her first keystone. And never one to be outdone, Zarul Ja reveals that he's tamed the elusive golden wild alpaca. Wuk Lamat's first-hand experience increased her respect for the art of the deal and taught her to think critically. The Elector recounts for her how the Dawnservant helped liberate them from the mountain giants and proposed that the Pelu Pelu travel and sell their merchandise. The next stop on our road trip is the beautiful forest paradise that I'm literally not even going to try to pronounce. We're off to the village of Okanu to find the next elector. Upon arriving, we find that Kona and his party are ahead of us, and the elector freely reveals himself. Before they can explain the labor, Bakul Jaja suggests that instead of completing the trial, he would take the keystone by force, but he's rudely warned that attacking an elector will cause for an immediate disqualification. With that out the way, the elector explains that this labor is called the Feat of Reeds, as the reeds are of high importance to the local culture. After investigating the outskirts of town, the party learns that the reeds that have been planted don't appear healthy. While the conditions for growth appear to be ideal, something is affecting the crop. Lamat remembers that when she came to this village in the past, there was the lifting of wings festival that isn't happening now. Knowing that it's a harvest festival, Lamat believes that its absence is causing the crops to fail and commits to helping the Hanu put on their festival. Initially skeptical, the Scions agree to help. The party makes their way back to town to check out the festival float. It's in bad shape, and after a thorough investigation, we suggest that the float may actually be an arcane focus for the harvest prayers. While the party looks for parts to fix the float, Bakul Jaja spies on them for answers. Once all the pieces have been brought together, the festival leader begins repairing the float. Lamat and the party depart to learn more about the local culture, realizing that the ritual totems look familiar to totems found in Eorzea, and they learn that the Hanu are in fact related to a similar tribe back home. In the meantime, Bakul Jaja threatens to steal the festival float, but fortunately, the party arrives just in time to change his mind. With all the preparations complete, the lifting of wings can begin. Lamat rides the float as it's carried from the village over to the ritual totem, where the power of the focus is put on display. It takes the life force of the believers, channels it into the totem, and the totem expels a burst of ether that showers over the crops. Kona, on the other hand, as a gifted scientist, simply walks over to another patch of poorly growing reeds and pours a liquid into the water, making that patch grow instantly as well. Having learned about ether in Osharlian, and with advice from Thancred and Urianger, Kona concluded that stagnant ether prevented the crops from growing. He says that Lamat's solution is medieval, and his way is the better way. While Lamat is actively participating in each culture with empathy and understanding, Kona's analytical approach displeases the elector. Nonetheless, they both earn a keystone. As we head back to Toliolal to make preparations for the next labor, it's revealed that Bakul Jaja got his hands on a test vial of Kona's Miracle Grow in hopes of completing the feat of the reeds without expending any real effort. Wuk Lamat decides that the next feat she wants to tackle is with the Yakoi, the mountain giants that once subjugated the Pelu Pelu. But since no one is an expert climber, the party needs to take a different route. We decide to depart by boat, go around the mountain, cut through the Moblin territory. As we prepare to launch, Bakul Jaja spies on us with the intention to stop our progress. We take to the river, and of course, Bakul is there with his minions and ready to attack. Failing to take us out though, he disables our boat, sending us into the bank of the river. Alizé and Erenvel attempt to fix the boat, while the rest of the party makes their way through the jungle. We're relentlessly pursued by the apex predator, and after a lengthy battle, we defeat it, but we find no other path to our destination. Disappointed, we resign to heading back to the boat to help with the repairs, knowing that this is going to slow us down. Fortunately though, Erenvel and Alizé arrive with the boat back in working order, and we're able to continue. Stopping for the night to conserve our strength, we get some insight on Wuk Lamat's and Kryle's early years. Lamat was born in Ikrash, but has no memories of the place and has never returned, while Kryle never knew her parents. Still, both of them love and revere their adopted parents. Lamat reflects on everything the Dawnservant taught her, realizing he was preparing her, but she feels that she's too ignorant to follow in his footsteps. She's not as smart as Kona, nor as strong as Tural, but we tell her to stop measuring herself by their standards. Lamat says her motivations were never about competing with her brothers. It's what she can do for her people as Dawnservant. Kryle points out that Wuk Lamat's strength is and has always been her empathy. With newfound focus, Lamat commits to staying true to herself, locating the City of Gold, and helping Kryle locate her grandfather. Not far from our party, Kona, Thancred, and Urianger discuss their motivations for working together. Kona's intentions are as noble as Lamat's, while Thancred and Urianger can't help but be excited just to compete against the Hero of Light and the other Scions. Understanding that the person destined to become the next Dawnservant only needs to gather the keystones, not necessarily complete the 7 feats, they prepare for more face-to-face conflicts. Elsewhere, Tural Ja is ahead of the other competitors. His retainer, Saril Ja, assures him that he is destined to become the next Dawnservant. Saril confides that he spoke to the Dawnservant's inner circle and was told that inside the City of Gold there is an unimaginable power. As his loyal servant, he appeals to Tural Ja to share some of that power with him as well. Without receiving an answer, he changes the subject to confirm that he can proceed with the plan he has in store for the heroes, no matter who suffers. Tural eagerly agrees. Back in the jungle, Bakul Jaja boasts to his retainer after easily taking down one of the apex predators. When questioned on what he would do as Dawnservant, he simply replies that he has no plans. He's in it for the contest and to prove that all two-headed Mamul are the superior race. He'll drive out the other races and invite his kin to live in the city and away from their rotting jungle. But for now, he's on the hunt for Tural Ja. Upon entering the town of Earthenshire, the party is approached by the appointed elector. They regretfully inform Lamont that they can't proceed with the feat of pots because the recent storm that destroyed their path up the mountain also injured many of their help hands. Their help hands assist the potsworn, and the potsworn are artisans hired by the moblins. They are given tools, materials, and a place to live to allow them to focus on their craft. This is why the finest metalwork in all of Tural is created in Earthenshire. But with the potsworn leaving due to the lack of assistance, Earthenshire is in danger of grinding to a halt. Without a second thought, Lamat and the party volunteer to replace the help hands and keep the village thriving. The team splits off to improve the working conditions. We suggest changes to the food, the temperature of the workshops, and some more tools. On our way to pick up what we need, we run into Kona and Thancred. Kona remarks that the elector also asked for his help, but he just suggested that they get artisans from Old Charlian instead of helping. Instead, Kona, Thancred, and Uriandre are trying to heal the injured help hands. Kona obsesses over his experience in Old Charlian. Instead of trying to help the people of Tural by acknowledging their differences, beliefs, and customs, he wants to modernize and change the status quo to more emulate Old Charlian. Thancred finds the notion condescending, but he doesn't voice his opinion. With some effort, the conditions in Earthenshire are a vast improvement. Their star potsworn is delighted with the changes and eagerly begins working again. Now that the emergency has been taken care of, they're ready to begin the feat of pots. While Lamont helped the potsworn and Kuona healed the help hands, Tural Ja cleared the fallen rocks from the mountain path and restored it. Bakul Jaja also shows up, having done nothing. The elector tasks each of the claimants to recruit one artisan and bring them back. So the party returns to Tuliolau and convinced an artisan that they met earlier named Fanjon Tain to move to Earthenshire. Before we can return and complete the feat, Alul Jaja, the Dawnservant, requests to see us alone. They heard from Estinian that we were a renowned warrior and he wants to face us in battle. The Dawnservant is the epitome of old man strength. Even with one head asleep, he's one hell of an opponent, able to wield powerful magic and bone-breaking physical attacks. The battle of strength ends in a draw, and the Dawnservant admits that he really asked us for the duel to assess our ability to guide and watch over Lamont. He's concerned about his daughter's well-being and asks if she is growing. We admit that we see potential in her, but she's still not ready for the throne just yet. His hope is that she and all his children rise to the occasion. The trials aren't to choose a candidate, but to cultivate one. If he feels that none of them are ready, he will remain the Dawnservant instead. He wishes for us to inspire Lamont as her mentor. The party prepares to return to Earthenshire, but are stopped by Wuk Ivu, person we met in Okanu. He warns that everyone, except the Dawnservant, that searched for the City of Gold never returned and begs us to stop the trials. Trial concludes that the legend of the city may have originated with the Yakoi, as they are the oldest tribe in Tural. The party intends to escort Fanjon Tain to Earthenshire and then go to the mountain giants. Meanwhile, as Tural Ja escorts his artisan to the Moblin village, Bakul Jaja ambushes him and attempts to abduct the goldsmith. In an extremely one-sided performance, Bakul is defeated with one blow. Tural allows him to live, but Bakul is mentally devastated. Lamont is the first to arrive in Earthenshire and is awarded with her keystone. Soon follows Tural and Kona. It is revealed that not only is Tural a warmonger, but upon becoming Dawnservant, he intends to begin a global assault to expand his territory. His plan is to go into every territory and begin a war of attrition by endlessly attacking until his opponents grow tired of loss and submit. By subjugating the world, everyone will know and truly understand the value of peace. The Moblin elector reflects on the Dawnservant's first visit to Earthenshire and their old ways. The Moblin did not interact with the other people of Tural, and the Dawnservant is the one who suggested their pot packs to interact with the outside world. By bringing in artisans and bringing them joy, they were able to focus on their work, and the Moblins were able to trade the crafts and maintain the village. Their once separatist society became a mecca for artistry and trade. As we arrive at the base of the mountain, a pink-haired man stops us. He brings a message from Earthenshire requesting Lamat to return. The Elector had one more thing to give her. Seeing as there's no danger, Wuk Lamat heads back. When she doesn't return after a few hours, Alphino tries contacting her via Link Pearl, but he doesn't get an answer. Concerned, we return to Earthenshire. The Elector confirms our fears when they say they did not sin for Lamat. At the time, Kona approaches us, wondering where his sister is. He snaps at us for losing our charge. The competition has reached a turning point, and he knows she's in danger. Kona pairs with us, while the rest of the group split up to investigate. We backtrack up the road and question a peddler that was attacked by bandits earlier. The peddler describes the pink-haired man. Kona believes they kidnapped Lamat for ransom and decides to spring a trap to catch them. He disguises himself as a well-off merchant to draw out an ambush. In the town of Minifires, Kona flaunts his wealth to get the bandits' attention. Realizing the pink-haired man was spying on him, Kona sets out alone on the main road. As expected, he is ambushed, but we spring out from behind the trees to confront the crew. While his underlings fight us, the pink-haired man runs off. We easily take out and tie up the bandits, but they refuse to snitch. Kona loses his patience and gives them an ultimatum: talk or die. Fearful of this vengeful side of Kona, they confess that they were hired to capture Lamat, but they don't know where she is. We track the pink-haired man and tail him back to a mine shaft where he meets with the familiar Mamu Ja. We observe the pink-haired man take his payment and leave, while the Mamu Ja unknowingly leads us to the dock. Thancred catches up to us, and together we watch the Mamu Ja break our ship, then take off in a small boat. Thancred proposes following along the riverbank, but warns that this setback could cost Kona the contest. Impassioned, Kona states that he would give up the throne to save his sister. We decide to return to the group and wait for Thancred to contact us. Kona tells us about his early life. He explains that he was abandoned by his parents, and by chance, the Dawnservant adopted him. Wuk Lamat was also abandoned and adopted by his father, and he understands the pain of being unwanted, so he swore he would always be there for his little sister. Back together, we update everyone on the current situation, and Arenvel gets our ship back in working order. Once Thancred gives us Lamat's location, we go back downriver into the jungle. We find Bakul Jaja gloating over Wuk Lamat while holding her keystones. In the middle of his evil speech, Kona just shoots him in the head. Unfortunately, the thick scales reflect the bullets. Bakul calls out for the sniper, and we reveal ourselves. He tries to continue his monologue, but every time he opens his mouth, Kona shoots him again. Gangster. Thancred leaps from behind and frees Lamat while Kona makes the catch. Instead of us fighting head-on, Bakul Jaja's left head suggests they retreat. After losing to Tural Ja, they're already injured, and if they die, they will have failed their siblings. Back in Minifires, Lamat considers quitting the contest, but we convince her to continue. Thancred recalls that Bakul Jaja referenced the Bonawa when we confronted him, leading Kona to surmise that the person referenced is Tural Ja's retainer. Kona emphatically curses Tural Ja for his part in the kidnapping, and for the first time, out in the open, in front of everyone, he drops his calm and stoic persona and reveals his emotional side. Despite everything that's happened, Lamat wonders what kind of desperation could have driven people to banditry in the first place. She wants to find a way to improve things so that the people of Tural won't feel the need to resort to a life of crime. We finally arrive at the home of the Yakoi. They stay in their homes as part of their pact with the Dawnservant. They guard Valigarmanda, the Sky Ruin. The Dawnservant trapped it inside the Yakoi temple, the feat known as the Lay of Ice, meaning that although Lamat lost one keystone, she can complete the Feat of Proof and the Feat of Ice at this location. The party sees the Sky Ruin frozen in an orb of ice inside the temple. Zermerer informs them that the Elector is not present, but we must scour the mountains and find him in order to complete the trial. Before we leave, he recounts how the Dawnservant and his party battled the Sky Ruin for 10 days straight. The powerful beast controls lightning, fire, and ice magic. So the Head of Reason tricked it into losing control of its ice magic, and it trapped itself in frozen ether, where it has remained for the last 80 years. The magic sustaining its cage is waning, and they believe that the recent storm that injured many in Earthenshire is the result of the Sky Ruin's power escaping. We search the city for clues to the Elector's location, and we learn more about the Yakoi history and customs. They do not believe in death in the conventional manner. True death is when you are forgotten. So before death, everyone has a sepulchre built with their feats recorded. The monuments keep them alive in each other's hearts. A chronicler teaches us that 1,000 years ago, the Yakoi dominated most of Tural. Over the course of a century, they even built a bridge over the sea to the northern islands because they were too large to travel by boat. That bridge is still in use to this very day. And upon reaching the north, sickness decimated their numbers. The chronicler then instructs us to climb Warker Zormer to find the Elector and face them in battle. As we arrive to the entrance of the mountain path, we are stopped by Yakoi zealots. They resent the Dawnservant's peace and want to restore the Yakoi's dominance over Tural. To do so, they will eliminate the claimants and create a power vacuum. Before they can attack though, we are all ambushed by a giant bird. It uses magic on one of the zealots, and Lamat selflessly defends them when the beast attempts a finishing blow. After the bird is scared off, Alphino heals the injured Yakoi paladin, confusing the zealots. Lamat explains that she could not let them die before she got a chance to learn about them all. She wants to know more about them, not for strategic advantage, but because since they all share Tural, it's best that they become friends. Allowed to pass, we fight our way up the mountain, encountering all manner of gigantic creatures we've never seen before. Near the peak, we face the bird that attacked us earlier. We take it out and finally reach Gerfurler. He dwarfs the other giants, standing twice as tall as the rest and capable of wielding fire, water, and wind magic. When we defeat Gerfurler, he congratulates us and allows us to ask some questions. We inquire about his size, and he tells us that all Yakoi used to be his size, but most died due to illness upon reaching the northern islands. He confirms that the legend of the Golden City originated with the Yakoi. It was the reason that they traveled to the north in the first place. Hundreds of his ancestors all had the same vision of the city, causing them to realize that it was divine revelation. And the reason why the legend is so prevalent in Tural is because all of the territories under their control assisted with the expedition. Kona and his team arrive to challenge Gerfurler, and when they defeat him as well, both parties are rewarded their keystones. Urianger informs us that Bakul Jaja attacked them as they began their ascent up the mountain, but quickly backed off. Kona inquires about the significance of the site of the trial, and Gerfurler reveals that it's a burial ground for the Yakoi High Luminaries. Zoral Jah and his retainer Cyril Jah then reveal themselves, having already completed the feat, and Lamat nearly attacks Cyril for setting up her kidnapping, but Gerfurler scalds them. Because the Dawnservant defeated the Sky Ruin, he has a sepulchre at the peak. We learned that Ketenram, a pirate explorer from Eorzea, and Kefkiwa, the Seeker of the Unknown, were in the party. The three siblings reflect on their father's accomplishments and think about what traits they've acquired from him. Zoral Jah inherited the Head of Resolve's martial prowess, Kona inherited the Head of Reason's cleverness, and Lamat inherited their combined love of peace. Suddenly, a monstrous roar interrupts the peaceful moment. Alphino calls us back to the Yakoi temple. Valigarmonda broke free. We rush back down the mountain and help the injured villagers before entering the temple. We receive a vision that Bakul Jaja entered the temple and freed the Sky Ruin by simultaneously casting a fire and revive spell on the frozen beast. Zermerer sent word to Toliolau requesting that the Landsguard help them, but it will take time for them to arrive. Wuk Lamat knows that Valigarmonda will massacre the entire region, so she volunteers to stay and fight it. But we, having experienced slaying gods, join her. Gerfurler sends word of the danger to the Pelu Pelu, warning that they may need to flee to lower ground. We follow the Sky Ruin's path of carnage. Its strong magical power creates fire that burns forever, ice that does not thaw, and lightning that never ceases. We track it to the mountain Wakor Lador, where the beast is attempting to replenish his ether after being frozen for so long. The Yakoi zealots forbid us from entering the sacred ground, but Lamat explains that our intention is not to trespass, but to slay the Sky Ruin. The zealot believes that we don't stand a chance, but when Kona, Urianger, and Thancred arrive, Kona points out that the monuments of Valigarmonda's defeat bears the name of 7 heroes, and right now there are 7 warriors willing to stand up against the beast. Still unconvinced, the zealot denies us. Finally, Zoral Jah joins us, bringing the number to 8. Yet again, the zealot denies our passage, causing Zoral to prepare to kill him. Lamat scolds her brother and warns that if Zoral attacks, he'll have to go through her. The tense standoff ends when the zealot she saved earlier vouches for her and appeals to his kin to allow us to pass. Lamat calls for the contest to be paused for the greater good of Tural. By this point, the Sky Ruin has absorbed so much ether, it has multiplies in size and strength. It uses every trick it has to take us down. It combines and stacks magics on top of each other in its effort to kill us. But with our combined forces, we're able to finally kill the beast. We return to Gerfalur with news of our victory, but he is already aware of our feat. Zermerer tells us that he had plans for a second feat in town, but Bakul Jaja's reckless behavior made that feat pointless. The original feat of ice would have been to fortify the Sky Ruin's prison. Since the Sky Ruin is no more, Zoral Ja, Kona, and Wuk Lamat are all awarded a keystone for completing the feat of ice. With the Yakoi's charged dispatch, Lamat invites Gerfalur to finally visit the capital. Before we can leave for the next feat, the Zealots approach us. They feel indebted to Lamat and wish to clear their ledger. Kryl suggests they tell us about the dreams of the Golden City. The lead zealot, Vorpolor, recounts the visions of his forebearers. They saw a heavenly land suffused with a golden glow where people lived as gods, never aging, never dying, and free from strife. Everyone lived in a palace, and a silent goddess reigned. There was also a statue so tall, even his ancestors would need to look up to view it. Vorpolor reveals that all the Yakoi that dreamt of the city of gold hailed from the forests and quarries of Yaktael, which happens to be the location of another of the Dawnservant's feats. When the Yakoi that ventured north died, the few that remained in Yaktael were forced to abandon their territory and withdrew to where they are now. After that, the Yakoi never dreamed of the Golden City again. Back in Tuliolao, we discuss Lamat's position in the competition. She has one keystone less than Zoral Ja and Kona. Bakul Jaja has her stolen keystone, but he didn't complete the feat of proof or ice, so he couldn't have more than 3. He must be planning on stealing the rest. The feat of Repast and the feat of Brotherhood are left. Repast involves the conflict between the Mamul Ja and the Jabral in the village of Ikrash, where Lamat was born. But the feat of Brotherhood remains a mystery. All we know about the legend is that the Eorzean pirate Ketenram asked for an audience with the Dawnservant, but nothing else. Alphino notes that in Eorzea, the tale of Ketenram has been passed down. He crossed the ocean and befriended a two-headed king called the Artok while traveling across Tural. He made several trips back and forth, but was last lost at sea. Erenvel recognizes the title of Artok and that 80 years ago, the capital city did not likely exist. So Ketenram must have met the future Dawnservant in Mamuk, the Mamul Ja homeland. Since both locations are in Yaktael, we travel by balloon. In Ikrash, we are welcomed by a villager who takes us to where the feat of Repast will take place. The other claimants are already there, and the villager reveals himself to be Hunmu-Ruk, the leader of the village, and the anointed elector. He explains that they could not begin the competition until all the claimants arrived because this one will require cooperation to complete the challenge. Lamat and Kona are paired together, and the challenge is explained. Each team will prepare the traditional Zabral meal, Zibruk Pibil. While Lamat understands that every challenge is a lesson on the customs and history of the people of Tural, Kona acknowledges that yes, he has learned a lot, but he still maintains his futurist beliefs. The claimants will not be given the official recipe for the dish. They must instead figure it out on their own through investigation. The first team to prepare a satisfactory Zibruk Pibil will win. Our combined team splits up to see what we can find out. The villagers are unable to help, but they will give us subtle clues to tell us what's needed to make the dish. We figure out what meat is needed and that the dish is cooked in an underground oven. We also discover what seasonings to use, but not the amounts. And we also figure out that a banana leaf is involved somehow. We ask a cook where we can find the banana, but he informs us that that area is blocked off. They are nice enough to give us a hint and encourage us to visit a settlement that was ruined by the war between the Mamulja and the Zabral. In the village, we run into Wuk Ivu again. He gives us an in-depth history lesson. Mamuk is in the lower forest where the canopy blocks out the sun and the soil ruins the crops. Envious of the Jabral, the Mamulja launched a campaign to take the upper forest, but like Obi-Wan pointed out, the high ground has the advantage and they were held back. Their conflict lasted for over 400 years, but one day, the Mamulja made it to this very village and destroyed it. But there was infighting amongst the Mamulja. 3 factions vied for dominance. To quell the infighting, the leaders of the factions suggested crossbreeding between them. Nearly none of the children survived till birth, and if they did, they soon died of complications. That is, until one one day, a two-headed Mamulja was born. Gifted physically and magically, the child eventually grew into a mighty warrior and became the first Artok. Under their leadership, the Mamulja grew powerful. Wuk then takes us to Cinderfield, where the Jabral and Mamulja left a permanent scar on the land with their war. It ended 80 years ago when the Dawnservant and his allies defeated both armies and started negotiations. He called for a parley and initiated the peace talks. He introduced Ketenram to both groups and explained that the pirate traveled across the ocean from the continent to the east, a distance thought to be impossible. The Dawnservant proposed the question: if Ketenram were instead a warlord, how would they defend themselves against a foreign power with technology capable of doing something they couldn't even imagine? Together, they can all protect Tural. Their cooperation and trust in each other will protect one group's perceived weakness with an ally's greatest strength. The Dawnservant requested that for just one evening, they all stop fighting and exchange traditional cuisine. Each side was impressed by the other side's dish, and the Dawnservant challenged them to work together to create something new. Zebruk Pibil is proof of their newfound cooperation, and instead of just one evening, the warriors broke bread with each other over the next 3 days. The Dawnservant left them with the wise words: ignorance begets strife, understanding begets fellowship. Wuk leads us to the center of Cinderfield, where a monument lies, symbolizing the promise of peace. Below it, Lamat and Kona find a box buried containing the very banana leaves we need to complete the dish. Wuk thanks everyone for listening to him and tells Lamat that he thinks that she is the most fitting to become the next ruler. After witnessing her selfless approach to the feat of reeds, he realized that she is the only candidate that truly embodies the Dawnservant's essence. No one else cares more for their people and what they hold dear. Back in Iqrash, we rejoin the group who has figured out the rest of the recipe, and we prepare Zebruk Pibil. We get the approval from the Elector, while the team of Zaralja and Bakul Jaja failed because they did not show interest in the local culture and thus did not find the banana leaves in Cinderfield. Lamat and Kona receive keystones, absolutely pissing off Zaralja. Later that evening, Kona, Urianje, and Thancred sit by a fire. Kona finally acknowledges how ignorant he's been throughout the competition. He regrets that he's failed to even try to understand his own people. Realizing that he can't connect with the people, he decides that he shouldn't be the next Dawnservant. The next day, the path to Mamuk has been cleared. Rook informs us that most of the Mamulja that support the Dawnservant moved to the capital city, so we could receive a rather cold reception. These Mamulja are traditionalists, and while they won't restart the war, they do not take to outsiders. The first things we notice about the lower forest are the meteorite fragments scattered throughout the area and the cool blue glow the flora emit. Upon entering Mamuk, we split up and try to find the Elector, but literally no one will speak to us. No matter who we go to, they turn their back. Alphino calls us via Link Pearl when he finds the Elector, and we arrive just in time to see the Dawnservant standing over a beaten Zaralja. Alphino explains that the Artok summoned the shade of the Dawnservant in his prime for the feat of brotherhood. The Artok has rigged the contest. He believes that only another blessed sibling could defeat the Dawnservant. Zaralja foolishly chose to fight the Shade alone, and after realizing he was losing, attempted to take the Keystones by force, so now he's been disqualified from the right of succession. Bakul Jaja then arrives and reveals that he only completed 2 feats, infuriating the Artok. He commands Bakul take the rest of the Keystones from Lamat right now, but he declines because he's already tried and failed. Disappointed, the Artok banishes Bakul Jaja from Mamuk. The Elector then demands the final 2 claimants challenge the Shade immediately, but Lamat and Kona decide not to proceed until they actually learn about the people of Mamuk and the ways of the Mamalja. The Artok leaves and his wife follows, but she's touched by the sentiment and quietly instructs Lamat to meet her on the outskirts of town. Milao Ja explains why the people of Mamuk have been so cold to us. They believe that blessed siblings are superior and are the only people fit to lead the continent. They don't address outsiders because they deem them inferior and beneath notice. Milao believes that the culture is backwards and senseless. There are more who agree with her, but they're vastly outnumbered and can't speak freely. But she feels that with Lamat, those people can reclaim their agency. Because Lamat, a Jabrali, presumed to be inferior by all accounts, has defeated Bakul Jaja, their logic fails. Lamat admits that Bakul is a force to be reckoned with, and if he just trusted in his abilities and didn't look for shortcuts, he could beat her. Milal explains that he behaves the way he does because he's desperate. The Mamulja have always looked to blessed siblings as the answer to all their problems, and the Dawnservant's numerous triumphs have only confirmed their obsessive belief that their two-headed counterparts are superior. But Lamat, as the Dawnservant's daughter and Jabrali, proves that strength lies in character, not genetics. We're taken to an underground pier built by the Yokoi centuries ago where a broken Bakul Jaja awaits. Milal consoles her son and reveals that Bakul actually agrees with his mother. Their goal has always been to stop the practice of creating blessed siblings. We are actually standing in a burial site where all the two-headed Mamulja infants that died are laid to rest. Milal explains that after the first blessed sibling was born and they grew strong enough to push the Jibral back, victory became obsession. Mamulja tried conceiving more of the superior offspring despite knowing that only 1 in 100 survive. The rest die either trapped in their egg or shortly thereafter. Countless children were sacrificed. Bakul Jaja holds the weight of their deaths on his shoulder. He believed that he had to succeed because if he didn't, the deaths of his siblings were meaningless. He doesn't want more children to die, and as Dawnservant, he could have ended the practice. Lamat promises to do everything in her power to help, and they plan to gather the people from the town and rally them. They will listen to Bakul, and in his presence speak freely. Bakul apologizes to Lamat and gives her one of his scales as proof of friendship so that the townsfolk will finally talk to her. We gather townfolk and direct them to Bakul Jaja's location. He tells them that he wants to end the practice of creating blessed siblings, but the people are stuck in their ways and believe that only two-headed Mamulja can lead them to better conditions. Bakul promises them that if they tell Lamat their problems, she will do everything in her power to help. They inform Lamat that the ground is not fertile, and combined with the lack of sunlight, the only crop that grows are bananas. Also, the Yokoi mined the forest for all its resources, so there is no ore to trade, and the meteorites have no apparent value. Kona figures out that the flora emits its blue glow because they have an affinity to the ether released from the meteorites. Otherwise, the soil is actually fertile. He will use his connections with Old Charlian and have them analyze the meteorite. There, they can cross-reference the various seeds they have stored and find crops that will grow in the lower forest. Realizing that their problems can be solved without faith in a genetic savior, the townsfolk rally behind Lamat. With the problem essentially solved, Wuk Lamat is ready to take on the feat of brotherhood. Back at the location of the trial, Lamat berates the Artok for allowing the practice of eugenics even as the guilt eats away at his people's souls. She swears she will defeat the Dawnservant's shade and prove to him and everyone else that there is a better path. Inspired by his sister, Kona drops out of the contest to join her party. Now, as a party of 8, we take on the final challenge and face the Dawnservant in all his glory. It's easy to see how Galul Jaja managed to do so much in his life before becoming Dawnservant. His ferocity is unmatched, and the magic he's able to wield with the Vow of Reason awake is terrifying. We survive his initial wave of attacks, but then he reveals his trump card, a sword created with the combined magic of reason and resolve imbued with fire. We rally behind Lamat as she single-handedly protects us all. With the Dawnservant defeated, the shade turns into dust, but the Artok refuses to give Lamat her keystone. Just then, a man named Tankwa shows up. Lamat appears to know him well, but he's a Rogadin, meaning he must be from Eorzea. Alphino immediately realizes that Tankwa is actually Ketenram, which blows Wuk Lamat's mind. Ketenram tries to reason with the Artok, but he's having a tantrum. He scolds Lamat for having helped to complete the feat, but she retorts that we are all her friends. He believes a leader should be able to stand by themselves and have no need for friends. Lamat counters him and says that together, we all can achieve anything. He need not rely on blessed siblings, he just needs friendship and community. Lamat extends a hand to him, and taken aback by her offer, he finally admits the guilt he's felt for sacrificing so many children for his faith. Unsure of how to proceed from now on, he relents and gives Lamat the final keystone. Kona congratulates his sister, then apologizes to Thancred and Urianger for failing the rite of secession. but the Scions are just happy that their charge has matured enough to see the bigger picture. Lamat seeks out Milalja to spread the good news. The townsfolk are thrilled that they will no longer be subject to the barbaric rituals, but still are a bit scared of what this all means now. Lamat assures them that they have nothing to fear. By learning what makes us all different, we can find common ground in places we never expected. We just have to keep an open mind. We accompany Kenton Ram to his home for some answers. He explains that he's been living down in the lower forest to ensure the peace treaty between the Mamul Ja and Jabral was maintained. But he doesn't point us in the direction of the Golden City. Fortunately, Kryl has figured it out. She recalls that Hunmu Rook wouldn't tell her about her grandfather's brief visit to Ikbrash, and that's because as an anointed elector, he's not allowed to give hints to the location of the City of Gold. Then she points out that people with magical aptitude can receive visions when in the proximity of a strong arcane trigger, meaning that the City of Gold is somewhere in the lower forest. We've got a large area to comb, so we decide to head back to Mamuk and try to find some clues to narrow down the search. But before we leave, Kettenram stops Erenvel. The young man seems familiar to him, and Kettenram realizes that he's Kakiwa's son. The old pirate explains that she told him about him. She tasked Erenvel with finding the City of Gold. Erenvel admits to everything. He tried searching for it in his youth, but never got close to finding it and gave up. Kettenram encourages him to continue on because he's so close now. Back in Mamuk, the rest of the party tells us how nice everyone is to them now. They mended our gear and gave Lamat a bunch of free food. Milal Ja and Surreal Ja, the Artark, approach us. While the Artark can't give us any clues, his wife is unrestrained. Milal explains to us that the Mamul Ja have explored every inch of the lower forest except for one. The chamber connected to the stone pier created by the Yakoi, the Sky Deep Cenote. We enter the dungeon and fight our way through the wildlife as we delve deeper. The environment inside changes and we begin to face defensive golems. Off in the distance we can see a golden doorway and we fight our way to it. And when we're just a short distance away, the final protector blocks the way. The Maul Skull is a behemoth that emits an unusual purple glow and it absorbs golden energy from the walls surrounding us before it attacks. But our party, seasoned from all the trials, defeat it. Trial points out that the surrounding stone doesn't appear to be of any of the Turali culture. Erenvel confirms that he's never seen anything like this before. They suspect that it could be ancient technology, leading Alizé to believe it to be Allegan. But Alphino notes that they've never seen any Allegan designs like this. With the door to the Golden City within our reach, we venture into the unknown. A Charlian seal blocks the doorway, so Lamat places her 7 tablets and keystones on a pedestal and unlocks the seal. The door behind it opens and we enter into a room of high-tech design. At the far end sits a sealed portal. Everyone is confused because this looks nothing like what the Yakoi described. But we're interrupted by the Dawnservant himself. He's come to personally congratulate Lamat. With the rite of secession complete, Kryl looks up to the Dawnservant for answers. She wonders what's behind the gate. Galul Jaja tells her that the Golden City lies on the other side, but circumstances prevent them from opening the gate. He promises Lamat that he will tell her what the city is and what Galuf Baldessian discovered after her ascension to Dawnservant. Then she can do with that information what she wants. Back in Tuliolao, Lamat prepares for her ascension ceremony. As we rest in our room at the inn, Kona visits us and thanks us for helping his sister realize her potential and guiding her. He came to inform us that Lamat wishes us to accept a position within her administration upon becoming Dawnservant. We don't need to answer now, but she'll approach us after the ceremony. Finally comes the day of ascension. Galul Jaja addresses the entire city in front of the palace, but he wastes little time before introducing the new Dawnservant, Wuk Lamat. She admits to her people that before she began the rite of secession, she thought she knew everything about her people, but her journey showed her how much she had yet to learn. The Hanu Hanu taught her how they care for and cultivate their land and how welcoming they are to visitors. The Pelu Pelu showed her the depths of their patience, when to push through and when not to push your luck. The Moblins taught her the power of creativity and that when filled with passion and supported by others, we do our best work. She was moved by the history of the Yakoi and learned that we live on as long as we're remembered. She tasted the harmony that ended a centuries-long war between the Jabral and Mamulja in Yaktel when she ate Zibruk Pibil. And she felt sorrow in Mamuk when she met with the people who suffered when placing their faith in blessed siblings. As she's come to know the nation, she realizes that there are still problems to fix, and not everyone lives in peace and prosperity. And still, there's people and places in Tural she hasn't met and never seen. She hopes with everyone's help they can build a nation where everyone knows happiness, because their happiness is her happiness. Lamat leaps from the palace to the ground with her subjects. She tells everyone that her father led the nation with two heads, resolve and reason. To better lead Tural, she needs someone with the knowledge and insight that she lacks, so she asks Kona to be Dawnservant with her. Kona addresses the people. While he introduced foreign innovation to Tural, such as airships in the south and trains in the north as a means of deterring foreign invasion, the trials made him realize that he was too eager to cast aside the culture of the very people he wants to protect. Now, with everyone's blessing, he vows to help Tuliyolau prosper while honoring its people's heritage. Lamat then unveils a monument of Tural's history, depicting the Lay of Legacy where she and Kona become the next Dawnservant. Galul Jaja comes down to join the new Dawnservants and says that his brother would have been proud. He pulls the cover off his brother's head and reveals that he passed away 3 years prior. He apologizes for not telling anyone, even his children. He just wanted the people to rest easy until a new Dawnservant could be chosen. Planning the rite of succession was his brother's final act, and he did well. As Galul Jaja's final address to his people, he blesses the new Dawnservants. But sometime after we left the lower forests of Yaktael, Ketenram was attacked as he returned to his home by an unknown assailant. After the ceremony, Lamat meets with us in the palace courtyard. With everything we've been through together, she insists that we address her by her familial name, Lamati. She then asks just us to join her as she makes her rounds as Dawnservant to thank all the electors that are in Tuliyolau. She's able to find everyone except Ketenram. Saril Jah and Hanmu Rook inform her that they haven't seen the sailor or Zaral Jah. When we rejoin the other Scions, Lamati asks us to stay in Tuliyolau with her. She gives us a permit for passage to Tural, the area to the north, a place we haven't explored yet. Lamati thanks us all for helping her and promises Kral that as soon as her father tells her the details of Galuf's expedition to the City of Gold, she will pass along the information. Alphino and Alisei decide to stay in Tural a bit longer to learn more about the continent. Kral will stay in Tuliyolau, and we decide to explore Tural. Erenvel offers to join us as he visits his hometown to meet with his mentor, and with that, we all part. If you made it to the end of the video, I sincerely thank you for watching the Rite of Succession arc of Final Fantasy XIV's Dawntrail. I thoroughly enjoyed my playthrough. Please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss when I post part 2. I'm Late to the Gamer. This is Vehement Morningwood. Thank you and have a great day.